S'more Outdoor, Episode 11.
Welcome to Some More Outdoor, where we speak with authors, entrepreneurs, and business owners about how the outdoors has affected their life and their projects. This show is to remind you of the healing properties of the outdoors. So, are you ready to learn what the nature effect can do for your life? Well, here's your host, Brett Trout.
Hello and welcome to another episode of S'more Outdoor. I'm your host, Brett Trout, and this is the podcast dedicated to reminding you to get out and experience the nature effect. My goal is to help you reestablish your connection with nature so you can live with that childlike wonder again. So welcome to the show. I'm so excited today. I have a very special guest, author, blogger, speaker, just an amazing woman, Jennifer. And Jennifer Davis, she's here with us today. How are you doing today, Jen? Do you go by Jen, Jennifer?
Usually Jennifer Pharr Davis, but that's long and mouthy, so you can call me Jen if you want.
Jen, okay, Jen. Well, welcome to the show today.
Thanks.
Jen is the owner and founder of Blue Ridge Hiking Company. She has been named Blue Ridge Outdoors Person of the Year and a National Geographic Adventurer of the Year. She's hiked over 12,000 miles on 6 continents, including Kilimanjaro Summit, Machu Picchu, the Pacific Crest Trail, and has completed the Appalachian Trail Thru-Hike 3 times, holding the overall Appalachian Trail Record at 46 days, 11 hours, and 20 minutes. Her Appalachian Trail Record was voted Ultrarunning magazine's Female Performance of 2011. For the last 2 years, she's been attempting to hike in all 50 states with her family. So, Jennifer, I've given a little overview of you. Why don't you go ahead and take it away and share with the listeners who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, I am a hiker. I mean, you got that from the introduction. I love to get outdoors, and I'm a big believer that, the trails are there for everyone at every phase of life. So I'm someone who has at times wanted to challenge myself on the trail, and that's what led to attempting the Appalachian Trail Record a few years ago. But I love to go slow. I love to, look at all the details, and that's been the most recent goal with my husband and our daughter who turns 2 this month. So she's not even 2 yet, and we've actually hiked in all 50 states. And people are like, wow, that's awesome. But I want to be real clear that by hike, sometimes it's a 1 or 2 mile nature stroll, and we're looking at every rock and every leaf and, seeing it, like you said, through that childlike wonder, because my daughter certainly has a really sweet appreciation for being outdoors and connecting with nature. And so I just love that no matter what you want, if you need recreation or therapy or a challenge or respite or a family outing, whatever it is you need, you can usually find it going outside.
Well, that's so great to hear. And it's neat that you've actually completed the whole hike in 50 states. I think that's a great goal for everybody to eventually try. And for you to be able to go out there and just correlate that with your daughter and to be able to slow down and just even go on those little nature strolls. But I'll come back to that at the end of the show, because that's something that I'm passionate about, is that people at least get out for those little strolls that you talk about. So thank you for sharing that with us. I always like to start out with either like a mantra that you have or a nature quote that you have, something that you live by that inspires you to keep, productive in the outdoors, and how people can sharing what you have with our audience and how they can relate that into their life.
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate to have this sort of long-term relationship with the outdoors and with specifically with hiking and with trails. And there's this great saying, I can't claim it, but a lot of hikers, especially long-distance hikers, have this saying that goes, the trail gives you what you need. And I've totally found that to be true, because at different times in my life, I've needed such different things from the trail. At times I've needed to feel independent or self-sufficient. Other times I've needed to learn how to ask for help. There have been times when, I really needed companionship on the trail, and other times when I just embraced the solitude. And I totally, one thing I say is that the trail is the cheapest, best therapist I know. And sometimes when I get frustrated or confused or sad or, I'm just not having a good day or a good week, my husband, he just looks at me and he's like, go for a hike. He's like, you need to go for a hike, because there's things you can work out on the trail that just don't necessarily work themselves out in an office or at home. And so even if we're at a impasse relationally, one thing my husband and I do that really helps is we go for a long walk and we talk about it, and we don't come home until we have some type of resolution. And so, nature provides the space to think and work things out and be at peace, and also get perspective. I mean, it's so hard to get perspective in our day-to-day life with all the commitments and how busy everything gets. But when you get outdoors, it's really easy to feel really small, but yet really, you realize what's important, I guess, when you go outside. And I just love that about hiking and being outdoors.
Awesome. Yeah. So the trail gives you what you need. And you have just shared so much information for a lot of people that changed their life, basically, just from a few of the nuggets that you said there. One of them was, if you're at an impasse relationally, getting outdoors and communicating while you're outdoors with your significant other, friend, whatever, or just, getting away every once in a while to get up there, as John Muir says, and just, wash your spirit clean and just getting out there. So much information in there. That was just awesome. Because I want people to live with that childlike wonder and experience what you experience when you're in the outdoors, I want to take it back to a time in your childhood. I'm sure there's a lot of different memories that you have, but if you can share with us one of your childhood memories, childhood experiences in the outdoors, and just kind of take us to that time in your life and tell us that story.
I was really fortunate to grow up in a beautiful place. I grew up in western North Carolina in the southern Appalachian Mountains. But my family was not overly outdoorsy. I never went backpacking, never went camping with my family. We did some day hikes. I remember doing day hikes as a family. But the thing is, nowadays with school and with sports and extracurriculars, and with, usually two parents working, everyone's schedule is so hectic and so busy that unless you prioritize going outside, you're probably not going to spend a whole lot of time in nature. And, school's a good thing. Sports are a great thing. I loved playing sports growing up, and that, in a way, segued into my experience or introduction to nature, because I went to summer camp growing up, and, it was predominantly a sports camp and a faith-based camp, but I just remember it was just, in the woods, you could see the mountains, you were sleeping in open-air cabins, and even though I was playing tennis and basketball and not hiking or biking, I loved breathing in nature. I mean, that's what it felt like. It felt like for 5 weeks each summer, I got to breathe in nature, and I felt closer to God. I felt closer to my friends. I liked the sports more. I mean, everything just felt more real. Everything felt better. And so, growing up, I think I took that camp experience, and when I graduated from college, I thought, well, how can I expand or enhance that experience, because I'm too old to be a camper or a counselor? What can I do to breathe in nature? And that was when I got the idea to hike the Appalachian Trail for the first time. And obviously, at that point, I thought it would be the only time, and it'd be one and done, and just, a special time in my life to be fully immersed in the wilderness. But then it turned into so much more, and just a lifelong love for being in nature and in the outdoors.
It's so amazing when you talk about a story like that, because of camp when we were young. And a lot of people, there may be people out there listening that have never been to a camp, or they did, but it wasn't a 5-week camp. Maybe it was a week-long camp. And I was fortunate enough too, growing up, we went camping a lot, living in California. I'd never been to Yosemite though until just recently. But the camp experience and how that develops you into the person that you are today, and just getting out there to try it one time, and it's funny because I say Appalachian over here on the West Coast. You say Appalachian?
Yeah, Appalachian? I'm glad I could set you straight. Right?
Yes, yeah. Appalachian.
Well, thank you. We're having this phone call.
Yes, because I've been saying it the whole time like that, right?
No, it's very regional. Both pronunciations are correct, but in the Southeast, usually we call it the Appalachian Trail.
Appalachian Trail. So, but yeah, and so many
the
people. AP. Okay, that'll work. So many people, so many of you driving to work right now are just you've listened to that story and how she took and she needed to breathe in nature and she needed to get out. And a lot of you, that's what you need right now, is just to be able to get out because work's not going the way that you want it to. You just need to get outdoors and breathe in nature. And I love that phrase that you have that you've shared with us today. So thank you. So going into, you've had definitely many outdoor experiences since then. And I'd like you to take us to a time where you visited one of the most beautiful places, and you've been to some beautiful places in the world, but one of the places that you've been to, and share with us that experience and the effect that it had on you at that time.
Well, one that comes to mind, there's so many. I mean, it's hard to choose, but one that comes to mind is Crater Lake in Oregon. And I remember, doing the Pacific Crest Trail, and I was still pretty young. I was 22, 23 years old, and I was hiking that trail by myself. And I had never really been out to the West Coast before, certainly not in the forest or in the mountains of the West Coast. And so it was all so spectacular to me. I mean, I love the Southern California desert. I love the Sierras. But I think Oregon, it kind of tricks you because it puts you in the forest and you're just like, oh, this is nice, beautiful forest. It's lush and it's green. And then all of a sudden it brings you up to Crater Lake. And I had heard about Crater Lake and seen pictures of it before getting there, but nothing could have prepared me for what it actually looked like in person. I mean, it was so dramatic, and I had never seen a shade of blue that was the color of that water. I mean, it was so deep and it was so beautiful. And I just didn't know a place like that could exist. I mean, I think in that one moment, it expanded my mind, not just, what existed in nature, what was possible in the natural world, but what, I could accomplish. I mean, that one moment was so pivotal of like, there's so much more out there. There's so much more in me. Like, so much of the potential of life has been untapped or undiscovered. And so I just had this really meaningful experience at Crater Lake. And the reason that experience comes to mind is, at that point I was not dating my husband, did not really know about my husband. But when we met, one thing we bonded over was that he had taken a trip out west, and he was talking about transformative moments, and he talked about getting up to Crater Lake and just feeling like life would never be the same. So we really bonded over that experience. But I continue to have new places where I go, and it just redefines what I thought was out there and what was possible and what's possible in me. And that's the great thing about nature, is it's going to continue to do that. I think that's not going to stop.
Right. Oh, it's a wonderful story too, because Crater Lake, if you haven't been there, it's just such a beautiful, I mean, you can Google it now, but back then you couldn't, I don't think, right? You could see pictures of it in encyclopedias and different things, but being there in person. Now, you came in at a different time than I did. We came in our car or in our motorhome, but hiking that, I could only imagine the impact that it has. And there's so many times, like you said, it's tough to pick out one specific time in our lives where nature's had an impact, because we continually explore and find new places that are so beautiful and teach us.
Right.
And that's what I love about it. It's that it teaches us. Well, thank you for sharing that part of your life with us. I like to express nature as having an effect. Nature has an effect on us. And like you said in the beginning, it's a cheap therapist. And so I coined this term. Well, I guess I coined it. I don't know. I just made it up. But it's called the nature effect. So how does the nature effect have an impact in your life and business today?
That's a good question. I've learned so many life lessons from the trail, and there's so much overlap between my experience outdoors and my day-to-day life. And one thing, I run my own hiking company in Asheville, and I never went to business school, and I never had any interest in being an entrepreneur before I found the trail. But then I got out there, and I really wanted to share, like yourself, the positive impact of nature with other people. I mean, that's what was on my heart. That's what I wanted to do. And instead of being intimidated because I didn't have a background in business or marketing, I just started to take what I learned from the trail, which is a lot of resourcefulness, a lot of finding a way. Like when one trail's closed, you have to find another way around it. I learned a lot about relationship skills on the trail. It's a natural environment, but there's a lot of human nature when you go into the wilderness. Yes. And learning how to work with all different types of people and learning how to be really stubborn, but also adaptable. So always willing to be flexible and change something if it's not working, but yet not give up. That was something really important that nature taught me. And I'm just a more optimistic person too, which helps in my life and relationships and my business, because I think before I started hiking, even though I didn't recognize this in myself, I was very entitled. And a lot of people in our society, we expect to be comfortable. We expect to have the temperature a certain level and have food and have nice weather, because that's when we go out, when it's nice weather. And all of a sudden, I got out there and I couldn't control how tall the mountain was and what the weather was doing and, what the bugs were doing. And I learned to just be appreciative for the things in our life and also embrace the hard times, because they make the sweet times so much better. So I think that positive attitude, has really translated, and that's something that I definitely got out on the trail.
I am learning so much from you. There's a lot of stuff that I'm finding is that when people start talking about their passion about the outdoors and what they love about the outdoors, there's not a lot I can interject with, because you've given so much information that people can go back and listen to and take notes if they're driving. So thanks for sharing that part of it. I want to dive into inspiration, mainly about inspiration for how everything came about after you went on that first hike, because you've written a few books based on your experiences in the outdoors, and the Appalachian Trail that you've hiked 3 times at least that I know of. And, starting. So what was the real inspiration behind writing the books and then starting the company?
So I sort of alluded to this when I was talking about my business, but I didn't grow up. I didn't go through college thinking I want to be a writer. I want to be a business owner. It wasn't until I found the trail that I was like, how can I get other people out here? That was the motivating factor. I just thought, how can I share this story? Because it's not my story. I mean, sure, it's through my eyes or through my voice, but it's the transformative property of the wilderness and of nature. And my whole focus was, how can I share this story with other people? And I know specifically being a woman, and, being a woman from the Southeast too, where there's not always a strong outdoor culture, so many ladies or mothers were coming to me and asking, well, I want to get outside, but I don't know how to do it. And can you help me? And so the 3 ways I found I could help people the most, was through guided trips. I mean, that's the most tangible, practical way to get people outdoors, but then also through writing and speaking and sharing the message of the wilderness, which I love doing. I love it. I mean, in the past year and a half, my husband and I, we've been on this crazy book tour, and I've given like 300 talks, and everyone's like, aren't you sick of it? Like, don't you hate it by this point? And I'm like, no, like if I was talking about anything else besides the trail, I would hate it. But I just, love sharing the impact of nature and the accessibility, because no matter where we go, people can get outdoors, and it's so affordable. And there's just so many, redeeming properties of nature and hiking. So it's a wonderful message to share. And as long as we're talking about inspiration, I think it's worth noting that I had wonderful role models. I had wonderful supporters. My dad and my husband have been awesome supporters. I've had hikers like Warren Doyle, who's hiked the Appalachian Trail 17 times, or runners like David Horton, who, he's run so many trails. I've lost count. I think he's done over 100,000 miles. But they really took the time to invest in me and encourage my passion for hiking. And I really, really appreciate that. And I value those men. And at the same time, it always irked me that I didn't have a female role model. And so I decided, a long time ago that I wanted young girls and boys to have a woman role model on the trail to look up to, and someone who was doing hard hikes. And the truth is, there's a lot of women out there doing incredible things. And for whatever reason, the industry's not, sharing those stories. They're not widely known stories. And so we're trying really hard in this grassroots manner to tell our story, so that the next time there's a, 18-year-old girl who wants to hike the Appalachian Trail, she has both men and women to look up to when she wants to get outdoors.
That's so important because, like you said, it's important that we all find different role models that we can look up to. And it surprises me to hear that there haven't been a whole lot of female role models in the outdoor environment like that. And so congratulations on being that person. And as I was learning more about you, I was looking, you go around the country and you do all these different talks about getting outdoors and the impact that you're having. I want to thank you for that impact, because I think it's so important, and that's something that I have a passion about, and the whole reason why I wanted to start a show like this, to where I can talk to people and learn from people about what they're doing. Because in the beginning, I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going into a niche that not a lot of people were talking about, or not a lot of people knew about, how like outdoor therapy and the impact that outdoors can have in your business and your life. So to come across somebody like you who's going around the country and sharing that and talking about it, it's such a relief knowing that I'm not the only one, and I don't have to feel like, or neither of us have to feel like that we're paving the way for somebody else, but that we're all doing this together. And
Yeah.
And
we're on the same team for sure.
Absolutely. And I was just talking to a lady today, earlier today, Denise. She's at One Woman Adventure out here in California, and she actually kind of started similar to what you were saying. And so it's neat to hear both of those stories in one day for me, is that she went out and went on an overnight camping trip up in Yosemite, in Little Yosemite Valley, and had come back from that and was just sharing pictures on her Facebook page. And all of a sudden, she started getting all these people sharing it and asking questions about hiking alone. I didn't realize you could go hiking by yourself and be safe, or go, camping and stuff. So her business has developed through that as well. And so now she's putting together, a video resource that they're going to be airing next September out here in California for that. So it's really neat for me just to I bring that up because I like the correlation between you two and how everything starts.
Yeah, and there's a really, there's a really organic, no pun intended, but there's a really organic need for people to help other people get outdoors. And, it's sad, but the trajectory of society is good for business, because it's away from the outdoors, and people are going to, it's like a language, and people are forgetting how to speak this most natural language. And so they're going to need people who can help translate. And so it is, it's something I believe in very, very strongly.
For me, starting this show, I had done about 25 podcasts on my old one, where I was up in Yosemite and Sequoia talking just about different topics, getting the sounds of nature out there. And I really struggled with doing an interview-based show, coming inside and doing it, because the whole point is for people to get outside, but I don't have to be stuck inside. I can do these shows and encourage others to get outdoors. So definitely thank you for all the information that you're giving us. Now, I want to dive into, you've already talked a few, maybe even answered a couple of these questions, but it's really their questions are really geared towards inspiring others to take hold of their life and get out and breathe in and just get outdoors more. So other than going for hikes, what do you do when you get outdoors?
I go for hikes.
You go for hikes? Okay.
I love hiking so much. I mean, I love going out. I love looking for rocks. That's random, but I usually do it on hikes. I love my daughter. She calls them treasures, because Mama's always looking for treasures on a trail. I definitely have an interest, and I'm learning more about medicinal plants and survivalism. I mean, that's very intriguing to me. I like rock climbing. There's a lot I like to do outside, but I love walking. And so I'm going to probably be walking or sitting on a rock or camping on the ground, because that's how I, experience nature. And to me, it's one of the most natural ways, especially for a day hike, because you don't need fancy gear. You just need comfortable shoes and warm clothing and maybe a rain jacket. But that's Sorry to not give you a better answer.
No, that's a perfect answer, because the whole point of the question is to help people just understand what others are doing when they get out. And like you say, just going for a walk, going for a stroll, like taking your daughter out for a stroll and looking for treasures. We forget about that because we're working so much. We come home, we eat, we sit in front of the TV, we get online. People are trying to figure out how they're going to create a life for themselves, and they forget about what the outdoors can do for them and helping them create that life. When you don't spend time outdoors, what negative effects do you see in your life and business?
Oh, I get cranky. My sleep cycles get thrown off. I don't have as much energy. I don't feel as creative. Writing's a big part of what I do for my business and my career. And when I don't get outside, it's like I have permanent writer's block. Physical movement definitely frees up some creative thoughts that I think are stuck otherwise. And so, I think I'm a much nicer person when I get outside and go hiking. And I feel healthier and happier when I'm outside. So when I'm inside, it's unfortunately the reverse of that effect.
And that's why your husband says you need to go for a walk.
Go take a hike.
Yes, go take a hike when you're feeling like that. And how do you make sure it's one of the most important things that you do?
Well, I try to be pretty good about being forgiving. I grew up as a fairly disciplined type A individual, and actually nature's kind of helped break me of that, learning that, again, I'm not in control, and it's okay if I don't go for a 3-mile hike every single day. But, nature has seasons, and I have found have been seasons of my life when I'm able to go out and do more. I'm able to go out and do a thru-hike. So I'm immersed in nature. And then there's other seasons of life where I'm inside writing. And, maybe I'd rather be outside, but it's important to share this story and hopefully inspire other people to get outdoors. And so I don't have a day-to-day balance in my life, but by holding the outdoors as a priority and a focus, I know that long-term I'm going to do everything I can to spend quality time outside.
Can you share one of your favorite places you like to go to get away and think, and what that place means to you?
Well, the Appalachian Trail is my trail. I've hiked all over, and the AT, it means more to me. It's given more to me. It's asked more of me than any other trail. And one reason I really like this trail is because unlike a path like the Continental Divide Trail, which is a lot of times a corridor or a route, and it's cross-country and it's not marked and you're doing a lot of navigating, and that in itself is stimulating and exciting. But on the Appalachian Trail, I feel at home, and it's so well marked that I can really, I can just meditate or be at peace and just walk down the trail. And it's so easy to stay on the right path. And it's a very forested path. So you just, you feel lost in the forest and lost in your thoughts. And there's so much life in the forest. It's not like going out west where it's scenic and it's spectacular, but you're up on these rugged scree slopes and you're very exposed. The forest just feels alive, and there's so much water on the AT. And so it just feels like, whether you want to call it positive ions or spirituality or, biological matter, whatever it is out there, it just makes me feel so much more alive, and it creates space for me to think or to not think. And so that is my place of peace, and that is my home more than my four-sided house that I sleep in most of the time. The trail, the Appalachian Trail, that's my home. That's your home.
That's your special place.
Yeah.
So what's the best advice you have for somebody who struggles with spending time outdoors, or at least getting outdoors?
Well, again, I think, you got to be forgiving, because you do, like, for example, you're doing podcasts with all these folks who have been able to make the outdoors a livelihood or a profession. And so we get to spend so much time outside, and most folks are not going to go take a 5-month thru-hike.
Mm-hmm.
Most folks, it's good to just focus on the small things you can do. Focus on playing in your backyard. Focus on going for a nature stroll, going to the beach, just doing the little things, because the little things add up. So, like anything else, don't compare yourself to other people. It's not about what other people are doing. It's what you can do, and it's what's sustainable for you and your family. So, there's a lot of folks who come to me and they're 40 and they have 3 kids and a mortgage and they want to go hike the Appalachian Trail, and they shouldn't.
Right.
It's like, when you're 55 and retired, it's going to be a great thing. But right now, like, let's talk about hikes with your family. Let's talk about weekend trips or section hikes. So for a week or 2 a year, instead of leaving all those other commitments you've built up for 5 months, because those commitments are, they're good commitments. They're important. And so I think finding a way to incorporate the wilderness into your life that's sustainable is what's most important.
Well, yeah, and when somebody like you writes about your experiences, and it inspires so many different people to want to get out and do that, because so many people are definitely tired of where they're at. And so they think that the going on the trail, they don't think we've shared with people the impact that it will have on them. And
right.
So they want that experience. But just starting out, if for somebody who doesn't get out hardly at all and spends their weekend watching TV and stuff, but wants to change, just getting out for a little stroll, searching on your local, like I like to send people to meetup.com. There's different groups on there that you can go, like hiking groups that you can find, and maybe you go out and start one if it's a father and son hiking expedition or something like that, or to where it's going to be fun and doing that. So great advice.
And check with your local outdoor stores, because they're tied in, especially independent outfitters who have been a part of the community for a long time. A lot of those stores have group hikes, or they know the outfitters that can get you out into the woods, or they know the trail maintenance clubs who take hikes and do trail maintenance. So there's a lot of resources out there for folks to get active in the outdoors, and sometimes it's as easy as just asking.
Definitely great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So we're winding down to the end of the show. Really appreciate your time here. Can you share some final words of encouragement for our listeners, and then how S'more Outdoor listeners can connect with you?
Sure. I think the best way to start is just with baby steps. I know so many folks are intimidated by going outdoors, but it's such a natural place to be. And one of the best ways to get started is to go with someone else who's been out before and learn from them. And there are so many great resources available, and also books and movies. And if you're interested in learning about my experience, which I have one of those stories that it's like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. Because I probably made every mistake in the book starting out. And, my first experience is chronicled in the memoir, adventure memoir called Becoming Odyssa, Odyssa, which Odyssa is my trail name. And if you go hiking enough, you'll probably get a trail name or a nickname too. But it's this wonderful story about the transformation of the outdoors and what's possible out there, and hopefully encouraging that you don't have to be an expert when you start, that you can learn and adapt and grow along the way. And then, if someone's looking for more of a challenge, if they want to do something a little more intense in the outdoors, then my second book, which is titled Called Again, chronicles my AT record, where for 46 straight days I averaged 47 miles a day. But yeah, it sounds crazy and it's intense, but the moral of the story is not go out, hike hard, hike fast. It's all about drawing inspiration from nature when you feel on empty. It's a very relational book. It talks about how much I needed a support team. And we all need support teams, whether we're on the trail or off the trail, we all need support teams. So that's a really important message that I love to share, and I'm grateful to share through the book Called Again. And then if you want to check out our company, it's BlueRidgeHikingCo.com, so www.BlueRidgeHikingCo.com. And we're located in Western North Carolina. I wanted to get people out in the mountains where I grew up, in the mountains that I love the most. So that's where we're headquartered. And, you can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, and my personal account, Jennifer Pharr Davis. So if you want to see the hikes that we're doing all around the country, you can find me there.
And if you want to schedule Jennifer for speaking, she does speaking as well from her trips. Thank you again for coming on the show today. I've learned so much from you, and especially trail names. I got to make my own trail name now. But one of the things, before I end the show, I want to go back to, you were talking about your averaging 47 miles a day. Now, to a lot of people, that's definitely going to seem like a lot, which it is. But I notice it's when I get outdoors, it's easier to walk or hike 2 miles in nature than it is to hike 2 miles around the neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
because there's just something more out there that's inspiring you to walk. So I just wanted to kind of put that in there. Once again, Jennifer, thank you so much for spending time today, sharing your story. In the show notes, I'll have links to your websites and Facebook page and your books and stuff. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your year, and for being on the show.
Thanks.
That's it for today's episode of S'more Outdoor. I'm just so excited to be here with you today to share the stories and outdoor experiences from people like Jennifer. A few things before I go. You can head on over to s'moreoutdoor.com to see a recap of Jennifer's show on her show notes page, along with ways that you can connect with her. Just type Jennifer in the search bar. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, we would love it if you would leave a comment on her page where Jennifer and I will respond. To stay updated with new episodes, make sure you subscribe to the podcast by either clicking subscribe in iTunes, the subscribe button on Jennifer's show notes page, or from the app on your phone. If you would leave a comment and rating for the show in iTunes, that would be awesome. This helps to get the show noticed so others like you and I can learn about how the nature effect can have an impact in their lives and become inspired by these stories. You can also go over there and connect with me on my social media places as well. Sign up for S'more Outdoor and sign up for the S'more Outdoor newsletter. That way you won't miss any exclusive content I send out. So I hope Jennifer's story has inspired you to reconnect with nature and start living with childlike wonder again. Thanks for tuning in to the show that's changing lives around the world. Until next time, I challenge you to do something this week to get S'more Outdoor.